Athlete Podcast Network, where every 2 weeks I will be chatting with ordinary people doing extraordinary things on their path to their own finish line. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Finish Line. Today's guest is Timmy Howard. His story is phenomenal, and it's something that has inspired me ever since I've actually met him. And I wanted to talk briefly about Timmy before I bring him on. I met Timmy last December. I stayed in a cabin with a group of folks the night before the Jackson County 50/50 Ultra Marathon. I believe me and Timmy even stayed in the same cabin. Timmy was a photographer that event, and I swear Timmy was everywhere that day. You'd make this big, arduous climb. Timmy was there with his camera. You'd bomb it downhill. There was Timmy. My theory is he had to have covered as many miles as anybody else that day. And I've used those fantastic photos that Timmy has taken for most of my projects. So I've gotten to know Timmy over the course of the last year, and I found out that Timmy's story is really, really inspirational. And I've always wanted to talk with him more since I met him the first time. So I figured this podcast seemed like the perfect opportunity to get to know Timmy. Timmy is a runner, a road runner, trail runner, a triathlete, a phenomenal photographer, a dog parent. He's the operations manager at NIFS, National Institute for Fitness. And he's also the recent subject of a documentary called Inches to Miles, which chronicles him overcoming the obstacles of homelessness and addiction and his journey into Ironman Lake Placid. And without further ado, I'd like to bring Timmy on and can't wait for this fantastic chat with you.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Timmy? So is there anything I missed with that intro? I mean, I feel like, man, you're literally everywhere.
No, I feel like, yeah, everywhere on the trails is good. That's kind of my call to fame. I get down and dirty and try to make sure I get the best shots for everybody.
Man, that was no kidding. I swear, I would be like struggling through this course, and it's like, boom, you're right there with your camera. But yeah, so I kind of want to know a little bit about your background, like kind of where your journey, where you are today, and like, that big question is like, who is Timmy Howard?
Yeah. So kind of the background. I had a little bit of a tumultuous childhood growing up. A lot of drugs within the house, drinking, a lot of different things. There was a lot of issues with my mom and dad. And I'm kind of just fast tracking through all this. We only have an hour. It's a really, really long story. But basically, when I was 17, this is kind of the big turning point. My mom took me into a room, sat me down on a bed, and basically just said, "Your dad's not your real dad. I don't know who he is. I had slept with a few people, and I don't know who they are." And it was like a light bulb had flicked, because before that, I was getting tons of abuse and tons of things happening to me, and they weren't happening to my brother. And I always felt kind of ostracized, or just, I was the black sheep of the family, basically. So that was kind of a turning point for me. And things just started to really spiral downhill then. I was constantly drinking, always getting into trouble, never wanted to go to school. I mean, things were just really, really bad. And again, I'm like super jumping forward here, so feel free to back me up if you need to. But eventually, my mom had moved on after the divorce. She had met another woman, and they got together, and they became addicted to pain pills. And basically, they had introduced me to opiates, and that was how I started taking opiates. And then that just continued and snowballed until the heroin was introduced. And I basically spent the next 12 years of my life just being a heroin addict, homeless. I spent a lot of time with my mom there at first, using with her and her girlfriend, until that wasn't even feasible. And then I became homeless in Dayton for 3 years. Jumped ship to Indianapolis to try to change my life, landed right back smack into the drugs. I was homeless here for 3 years until I finally got sober about 7 years ago.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I've got, I share a similar story. I'm also 4 years sober. So it's always it's always wild when you connect with other sober athletes. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing to see. There's so many different runners and triathletes out there with stories very similar to ours. And you would never know just by talking to them. Like the first time I met you, I had no clue. So it's really neat to always kind of hear what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I want to get into also what started you, like what started your interest into triathlons and trail running and photography. I know this is a big question, but I want to know how all these fit together. Like, how do all these three pieces kind of come together for you?
Yeah, again, it's all been a wild ride, man. So when I got sober, I I went to this halfway house. I basically I medically detoxed off of heroin. I went to this halfway house and I was kind of trying to get my life back on track. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had spent my entire 20s out using drugs, had no idea who I was, what I wanted to do. I saw a flyer for a run group that met downtown. They run with the homeless. It's called Back on My Feet. So I just decided one day, oh yeah, I'll go try that. I don't know. I don't like running. I think running sucks, but I'll go try it. And so I showed up and I was just trying something. I just wanted to try something different. What I was doing wasn't working. I was still smoking like 2 packs of cigarettes a day too when I showed up. It was wild. But anyways, so I show up to this place and immediately, like, the first thing that happens when I get there is somebody just comes up and basically gives me a hug and just tells me that they're glad that I'm there. Um, and that was kind of the moment where I found community and I found like family. And that one little hug in that moment really kind of changed things for me. Um, and I started just running with these people on a weekly basis. They Back on My Feet helped give me my first pair of running shoes. Because when I went in, I had nothing but just the old tattered clothes that were on my back. So Back on My Feet gave me my first running shoes. They gave me my first bed for where I was ended up living. So I started doing that stuff and I realized how awesome this community can be. And then I made another fitness group through Back on My Feet, which was called November Project. It's a free fitness group that meets downtown in Indy on Wednesdays and Fridays. And then their energy was just like, holy crap. I mean, I was just like gravitated towards it. And things just kind of took off from there. And that was how I kind of maintained my sobriety. I started getting involved in all these different fitness groups. I was working at, I think, PF Chang's when I first got sober, serving. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And a buddy knew how involved I was starting to get in the community because I met him through one of the workout groups. And he was managing a local run store at the time. And he was like, hey, dude, why don't you come work for me? And so I showed up, started working. He basically made it my role to build community. So to hold community events, to just build community, bring people into the store and have fun with people and give back. And that was what I started doing. I ended up taking over one of the stores in Carmel. So I became the store manager out there and became basically the community liaison for the Indianapolis area. So it was just setting up a bunch of events and stuff. I was still struggling with, I went from the heroin, I got sober and I thought that I could drink. I was like, it's just alcohol. It's not gonna be that bad. And that didn't go well either. And I was drinking while I was at that other job. And I ended up getting a DUI. And that was the last time I drank because it was just, I realized I couldn't do that either. But then I kind of morphed into, I had met somebody at the running store who said, hey, NIFS is hiring. Do you want to apply here? And so I went over there and applied, and that's where I've been to this day. And the photography just kind of morphed from it because I've always loved photography. But I always just had like a camera phone, and my wife would always tell me, oh, you're good at this. And one day we got a camera and I went to Roberts and took like a 4-day, 2-hour class. And then just started learning, and I started doing photos for November Project at 6:00 in the morning when it's super dark, and just learning from there. And then the racing scene is it's kind of morphed a little bit. Are you familiar with the OPS 50/50?
Yeah. I'm a member of ITR also. So yeah, I haven't done it
Yeah.
yet, but
Yeah. Yeah. So my wife at the time, she had race directed the OPSF 50/50, and she's like, "Hey, why don't you be our photographer?" And I was like, "Okay." So I went out, had a ton of fun doing it, and a lot of people love the photos. And it's just kind of morphed since there. It's like my little way of giving back to the community is like, "Hey, I can take photos of you and give them to you, and if you want to share them, because like everybody just loves sharing photos of themselves doing hard stuff." So
yeah.
it's really nice to be able to give back and do that.
Yeah, it really shows in like the quality of your work. Like I knew you loved it before you told me that you love photography because like every time I see you post something on social media, it's just every single picture is amazing. So you can really tell
Thank you.
it's something that you're not just good at, but you have a passion for it. That's so cool that you're able to make like all those worlds like dovetail together. Like you love all those things, and then they all kind of come together in one big piece. That's so cool. And what I like what you said about community because you know when I didn't use running to get sober, but I used running to stay sober, and much probably like you, right? Like we didn't really fit in anywhere when we first got sober. At least I didn't. And like the running community was like a perfect place. You know, they take you with open arms. I always kind of joke around and say it's like they gave like like they basically gave me a home. It's like I'm like a misfit toy, and they gave me like a home to like be myself. So that's amazing that you found all those things too. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
wonderful, man.
absolutely.
So for okay, so I kind of want to revisit the dog parent thing because I see Stephanie, your wife, post a lot of pictures of your Ridgebacks, your two
Yeah.
dogs. Do
Yes.
you run with them too? Okay,
Yes.
that's so
It's
cool.
they demand it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I
No,
just got started with my
they're
dog and it's been yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Timmy.
okay. I was gonna say, yeah, no, they're really good running dogs. She runs with them a lot more than I do. I mean, she'll go 15, 16 miles with the dog. She's literally staring at me right now with her thumbs up. And the
I'm
dogs are
ready
up
to
there with her.
go.
Yeah. So they actually just got back from a run right before we did this. So yeah,
Oh,
so no,
cool.
they're always running. The dogs go everywhere with us. They're like our kids. So they're pretty much our whole world.
That's cool. I just started getting my dog in the ring too, but he wants to he like kind of like a buddy of mine says he's all gas no brakes, so he's wanting to run like 7:30 pace for the first couple of miles, and I'm like, all right, I guess it's, you know, we're gonna run fast, aren't we? So it's funny about mile 3 he starts to really linger back, but that's so cool. Whenever I see other
Just,
people with dogs, like running dogs, I'm like, oh man, like he's getting better, but yeah, like the pictures of your dogs running
it
are
just takes
phenomenal.
work.
Just takes a little
Oh
bit of
yeah.
work. Duly noted.
Yeah.
So the other thing that the big thing that's been coming up is inches to miles,
Yeah.
and I want to know all about that experience. This is cool. I've only been able to watch the trailer, unfortunately, but like your tickets keep selling out, so I would love to go see this. But tell me more about what that experience was like. What led up to that, and what was that like? I mean, that's got to be really cool. So I'd like to know more about that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty wild. And it's basically I had become an ambassador for Athletic Brewing because I had gotten sober, realized I couldn't drink beer. I was actually recording another podcast and somebody introduced it to me. I was super nervous because I was like, is this thing going to make me go back to drinking? Like, am I going to enjoy this way too much and want to go back to the real stuff? But ended up just absolutely loving it, and realized I could really kind of use this stuff as like, hey, I'm out at a party, I can drink it. Nobody even asks anything, you know, any questions. So I ended up becoming an ambassador for them like 4 months later. And I'm basically telling everybody I know about it, telling everybody about Athletic, you know, whether you're sober or not, it's just an awesome alternative. You know, if you drink and you can manage it, cool, totally fine. But it's just something where like I couldn't do that. So it's nice to have that option. So yeah, so then they had opened up Athletic Brewing. They have, through their ambassador program, they basically offer different kinds of incentives that you can do. It's like fun little challenges. And every once in a while, they open up race entries. So they had opened up race entries to Leadville. They had the mountain bike and the run. They had opened up entries to a half Ironman at Oceanside, as well as a full Ironman at Lake Placid. And I knew I had wanted to do an Ironman, but just financially, they're expensive. I mean, they're $1,000 for the race entry alone, not to mention all your travel, everything else. I mean, it adds up quick. And I wasn't too sure. So I asked my wife, I was like, hey, do you think I should apply for this? She said, you're an idiot if you don't apply. So you better apply. So I ended up applying and got the acceptance thing, said I was going to be on the team. It was myself and I think 9 or 10 other athletes on the team. And as we were doing that process, we were basically sharing our journey. So I was kind of like tracking all my training throughout, through the Ironman. And I was just posting different updates of, hey, this is what I'm doing. Hey, I'm doing 17 workouts today. Follow along, things like that. And the documentary idea was brought up, like, hey, there's some people on this team that have interesting stories. Let's kind of do some interviews, because they wanted to produce a documentary, but they weren't sure what route they wanted to go. And then, so they started these interviews, and it was like a 4-week interview process. But they ended up selecting me and 2 other athletes for the film. And I mean, it was one of the coolest experiences in my life. I think being a photographer, I'm always the one behind the lens. So like being on the other side of it and watching other people work. And then also it was very eye-opening to me because I didn't talk about, there's a lot of stuff in my past that I don't necessarily always bring up. And it was very humbling because we would have like 5-hour sit down interviews where I've got all these cameras and lights on me and I'm telling my whole entire story. And it was kind of therapeutic in that I was just bringing up a lot of stuff that I almost forgotten about. I think I just pushed it down. So it was really neat to kind of live that. And yeah, so we do all that. They follow us at Lake Placid as well. They filmed us during it. I would definitely give them credit. They got me through a lot of that race because I just kept looking for their goofy butts all over the course. So they definitely helped get me through the race.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's weird how really like freeing it can be when you find, like, I've got stuff that I'm still working on myself that I haven't like shared. And it's like freeing to finally be able to like let some of that stuff go. So it's got to be like surreal and like probably humbling to do that on like a documentary, like a platform like that. But
yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's exciting. I can't wait to watch it myself. But.
Yeah, it turned out really good. I'm super excited for people to see it. I mean, it chronicles my story as well as Lynn and Shannon, the 2 other athletes. And I mean, Lynn just has a crazy, incredible story, and she is just such a fighter. Shannon is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and just has the sweetest family backing him. And it's a really cool story, and they tell it so beautifully. And my main thing with the project was like, hey, I just want to be able to help somebody with this. Hopefully somebody sees this who's struggling. And I think that's definitely going to happen. It's definitely getting some good coverage, especially here in the local community, as well as nationwide. I mean, when you have somebody like Athletic Brewing, it's obviously a huge brand. So I think it'll definitely do some good.
Yeah, it's amazing. Where all is it airing?
Yeah, so
could you tell us all that?
Yeah, there's different screenings throughout the country right now. And basically anybody can host a screening that wants to, which is actually really cool. So Mason is the producer on this, and he's like the lead. He's called the lead adventurer for Athletic Brewing, but he does so much. He like helps the ambassadors. He hosts like 4 podcasts. The guy's everywhere, but he basically you fill out this little thing that says host a viewing, and you can get into like whatever movie theater you want, or if you want to hold it at like a running store, you can do that. So if you go to Athletic Brewing's website, there's a little place to fill it out. But right there on the site, there's also all the showings that are actually happening right now. So I know like right now, we obviously had the one in California that we went out to. But we have 2 here in Indianapolis. Those are already sold out. but there's one in Chicago, there's Pennsylvania. So they're starting to pop up a lot of places. And then for those who don't see it in the theater, which I will say in the theater is super cool. Like seeing it like on the widescreen with the surround sound was really cool. Minus hearing my voice for that long, because it's like, everybody hates hearing their own voice.
Yeah, that's so
But
tough.
it's really neat. So for those who can't get into the theaters, it'll be available everywhere June 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube.
Oh, phenomenal! I can't wait. Yeah, it sold out in like 24 minutes. That's a number I remember.
Well,
That's
24.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
24.
24
Okay,
hours they both did.
24 hours.
And
Okay, I was like, whew.
it was super cool. I mean, it's just a testament to the Indianapolis community, like just the community that we've built with the running, the cycling, the swimming. I mean, just all the different communities are basically coming together to come to these showings. One of them is a fundraiser for Back on My Feet, which is super cool because it's my little way that I can give back to them. Yeah, it's really neat.
I really need to get like out of my shell more. There's like a really cool Indianapolis running community. I just like, I just kind of run trails alone, and I'm getting a little bit more involved with like the ITR group and some of that, and like some of the trail running groups. But yeah, it's just beautiful, all the stuff that's like local. Like that's 30 minutes away from my house. So that's so cool that they they like banded together for that. That's
Absolutely.
phenomenal.
I'm really, really looking
Phenomenal.
forward to it.
Oh, looks like we got some questions. Drew Blair says Timmy equals loco in the best ways.
Hi, Drew. Yeah, Drew's fantastic. So Drew's a part of one of the triathlon club, yes, that I'm with, the Tri Locos. So they're like another one of my groups. They're my crazy kids that I just love. I can be weird and wear bikini bottoms with nothing else and hang out with them. I mean, how often do you get to do that with friends?
Right. Nice to meet you, Drew. And you might know her, this girl, but Stephanie Woods wants to know.
Yeah.
Now that Lake Placid is over, what's your next big thing? I've been dying to know.
I don't have anything on the schedule right now. I just had surgery back in February. So I'm kind of just laying low and rebuilding right now. I think the only thing I'm really going to do this summer is try to race with Ainsley's Angels. I try to get one triathlon a year with them. So basically you swim, pull them on the bike. It's with another athlete who may be dealing with some type of disorder or something like that. And basically you get to pull them in a raft or pull them in a bike and then you push them on a run. Super amazing group. And so that's a ton of fun. So that's probably the only thing I'm going to do this year. After that, I'll probably try to beat Steph in a half marathon because I think she's slowing down a bit. We'll see.
Coming for you. Tell me how you got involved in Ainsley Angels. I've heard a lot about it. I've seen them at most events. Tell me how you got involved in that.
Yeah, so I got involved with them through Tri Loco. My buddy Turtle, he has raced with them for a long time, and Turtle's just got the biggest heart. The guy's 6'8". I mean, you can't miss him from anywhere, and he's the sweetest guy. And he had talked to me about it, and I got to go out. And the first time I got to race was with a gentleman named Owen, and Owen is just the coolest dude. We had an absolute blast, and I mean, I'm talking to him the whole race. And then when we finished the race, he's a double amputee, right around the knees. And when we go to finish, he's got his legs with him and he's like, "Hey, I want to run across." And he pops his legs on and just gets up and runs across the finish. And I promise you, I've never had a better finish line than that moment, seeing all the locos in the background cheering for him and just everybody else cheering for him. Like throw every single Ironman, medal I have in the water. It doesn't matter. Like those are just super cool.
Yeah, that speaks to how beautiful that community is.
Yeah.
In and of itself. And we got from Run Try Bike. This is to Stephanie. We need the best running buddy segment of those dogs. We're going to get those dogs on a running buddy segment for Run Try Bike.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to talk to you about NIFS. So I always thought it'd be kind of cool to be a personal trainer and stuff and things like that. So I think you shared with me that you're the operations manager now of
Yeah.
NIFS.
Yep.
But tell me how you tell me what got you into that career, and tell me what it's like to like help other people achieve their fitness goals. It has to be incredibly gratifying to see
Yeah.
happen in front of you.
Oh, absolutely. And I had kind of, like I said, just stumbled upon the job. It was early in my sobriety. I had stumbled on it. I got in there. I literally had to go through like 4 interviews because my background check lit up like a Christmas tree with all my previous stuff from all my using years. But they ended up taking a chance on me. So I get in, and I started off as just the service desk manager. So basically I just managed just the front of house stuff when people would come in. And just quickly kept taking on more and more roles, wanting to learn more and more about the company, the facility, what they do, what their mission is. And eventually I got promoted to program coordinator, which was right up my alley. I mean, I came from the running store community where I was the community coordinator, and that's just always been my biggest passion is community. So when I took over that role, I started to run a few programs. Like we have the NIFS Indy Mini Marathon training program. We just finished that. We had our celebration dinner last night. And that's a program where this year we had 108 athletes that were in the program. And basically these may be people who this is their first time ever running. They've never run a 5K. They've never run 6 miles. And it's super neat. I have the help of a lot of my friends. They come in and they're pace leaders, and we meet every Wednesday and we do our long runs together. So I'm kind of like the lead coach, and then there's all the pace leaders that are there leading the individual pace groups. And it's super cool. And I get to just sit out there and cheer them all on and have an absolute blast. And it's been growing every year, which is fantastic because like, that's my whole goal, is just to make sure that more people are learning what fitness can do for you. And then also I get to lead a women's only triathlon training program, which that starts up here in June. And that is so much fun because I love all my locos and my guy girl locos, but ladies know how to do it right. Like they form these bonds. The group is incredible, and it's such a good time. And again, like we start this program, and I'm genuinely concerned when some of these people jump in the pool for the first time, because I'm like, am I going to have to jump in and save them? Because it's tough. Some of them don't know how to swim to start, but that's what I love to see. I love to see them start and then see their transformation to where all of a sudden they're swimming 500 yards in open water and they're out there just crushing a triathlon. And then I also lead another program called DECA. That is a decathlon of fitness. It's held inside there at NIFS. So it's really cool. I get to basically lead all these programs and build community with each and every one of them. And they're all starting to, which is kind of what I envisioned, they're all starting to intertwine. I'm starting to get people in DECA, they're just functional fitness people. They're I say this lightly, but they're just CrossFit people. They're just this. They're transitioning over to the running world, or my runners are transferring over to the DECA and like the weightlifting side of things. So it's really cool seeing all that cross into each other. And I just want to keep it growing because it took the back on my feet group for me to realize that running was what I needed to change my life. And I get emails from program participants when they're done, just telling me how much it changed their life or how they never thought they could do anything like this. And sometimes you just need a group or a community to help get you through that.
Yeah, yeah. It really does help to have like someone to like kind of lean on in those times too. Yeah, that has to be really like really rewarding. The reason I chuckle about the swim part is that's like the one thing keeping me from doing like an iron. Like well, first of all, I'm scared of training for an Ironman. Like I'm just glad I can run, but I sink like a stone when I hit water. So I just like, you probably have to rescue me out of a pool for sure. I've tried. I'm going to overcome that fear.
I've heard a lot of people say that. It's just like running. I mean, we all suck when we first start running. And it's just something you have to learn. Like when I started swimming 3 years ago, I had no idea you were supposed to breathe out underwater. I was holding my breath the entire time. Didn't know what I was doing. And it's just something like you become like how I became obsessed with running. I just became obsessed with swimming. I'm like, how do I improve this? How do I improve this? Just kind of like how we do now. It's like, how do I get faster on trails, or how do I run longer? Same way.
Yeah, duly noted. I'm close because I keep, now that I've had this time with like run, try, bike, and like some of my writing and stuff, I've been running more into more and more triathletes, and obviously a lot of trail runners too do multiple sports. It's like, all right, like I think I'm close, but I'll overcome that fear and get in the water very soon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Looks like we got another question from Drew. So he says, okay, more of a question this time than an obvious statement. Timmy coaches a program for people wanting to train for the first triathlon, typically sprints. What have you learned? What have you learned yourself from this experience? These people that you will be channeling into your own training / racing mindset. Seems like a very good question, Drew.
I would have to say just their eagerness to learn. Because a lot of these people, they come in so fresh, and they're soaking everything up like a sponge. And I try to continue that in everything I do, whether that be at my job, with my training, because no matter how fast or slow I am right now, I'll never know everything. So I think it's always important to kind of ask questions to learn. There's always somebody better than you. There's always somebody, that's willing to help you. So just ask questions, figure that out. And that's what's really awesome, is to see them leaning on the support. And, it's not just me. We have other coaches there who know much more than I do about certain things. So it's nice having all those different mindsets in one area to kind of help the community.
Yeah, you probably have like a bunch of different levels of like expertise that you guys can all kind of use to build each other up for stuff like that too. That's
Definitely.
awesome.
Yeah. If it comes to hot dog eating, I normally take the lead on that one.
Well, I was gonna ask that question because I also want to know where hot dog comes from for your nickname.
The hot dog came along purely by chance, I think. It's now become my brand. Everybody knows me as it. I get probably, and I'm not kidding here, I probably get 20 to 30 like hot dog reels that people send me every day, which I love it. It's so much fun. But so a few years ago, a buddy of mine does the Washington Boulevard Beer Mile, which is a beer mile here in Indy. It's the day after the Monumental Marathon. His name is Clayton. He puts that on. It's an awesome time. So we have like our whole community there. But I knew I wanted to participate. And again, I was like, how do I do this? This was before I had found athletic brewing. And I'm like, well, how do I participate in a beer mile if I don't drink? So we came up with the genius idea that doing a chili cheese dog mile would be a good idea. So I ate 4 full-size chili cheese dogs. For those who don't know what a beer mile is, you chug a beer, run a quarter mile times 4. So you run a full mile and chug 4 beers within that mile, without trying to puke. So I decided to do it with the chili cheese dog. Would not ever recommend that to anybody. It was such a terrible idea. But I had changed my Instagram handle before that, just kind of like hyping up the crowd. I changed it to Timmy Hot Dog Howard, just as a complete joke. And it just stuck, and everybody, like, I went to change it at one point for my photography because I'm like, who the hell is going to hire a photographer named Timmy Hot Dog Howard? So I changed it to like something actually professional. And then everybody was like, dude, no way, change it back. Like, it doesn't fit. So here we are, Timmy Hot Dog Howard, and it's stuck. It's become my brand. It is what it is. And I love hot dogs.
Man, don't blame you. I got another one from Stephanie. Stephanie says, to clear the record, I'm not slowing down, and I'm way faster than Timmy. The dogs make me faster. Nice.
It's true. These dogs, I'm telling you, if you ever want to PR a mile, just strap our boy to you. He'll take you for a ride.
I'll have to borrow him from some time for like a segment. That way I can get a laurel wreath on some segments.
Dude, he launched me. We were at November Project on Wednesday, and he saw a bunny, and I was trying to be fun, and I was like, oh yeah, Liam, go get it. This dog just takes off, and he's 90 pounds of pure muscle, takes off. I hit a patch of water, totally just eat it. And I'm like flipping over, like bruise my tailbone. Like, I mean, the dude, he can go if he wants to.
That's kind of like how my dog is. I think my dog helps me with trail running because I have to learn to be really stable on both my legs because we'll be moving a good clip and he'll see a squirrel and just take off one direction. So I've gotten really good at like unilateral like leg, just trying to. I mean, he keeps me on my feet too because if he sees something, he bolts the other direction. So.
Oh, absolutely.
So since I'm a triathlon hopeful someday, I want to know um, like what goes into triathlon training, like what's a typical training cycle like for you?
I think it definitely depends on the race. But I mean, for this past Ironman, it was a lot. I work 3 jobs. I have a full-time job and then two, my photography. And then I also work part-time at Athletic Annex. It's a local run store. And so I was working all that and then trying to train for an Ironman on top of that. And I would say an Ironman training is like a full-time job. You eat, sleep, breathe it. I was constantly doing it. My wife made tons of sacrifices because she was kind of taking care of the dogs while I was doing it. But I would have to like get my rides in by bike commuting to work or like go like it's a 4 mile shot for me to get to work. I would basically have to turn it into like a 30-mile route just to get to work, just to try to get training in. Like I had to find ways to train. Um, the one thing that did help that made it very conducive for me is working at NIFS. We have a pool attached to NIFS, the IU Natatorium. It's one of the nicest pools in the country. So luckily, I just got to go swim there on my lunches, which was really nice. But it just requires a lot of time. If I could definitely give one piece of advice, it would be to find a group to train with. Finding the Tri Loco group was the best thing I ever did because we would do open water swims together. We would do group rides together. We would do all kinds of things together that really kind of motivated me and kept me going because I don't think I ever would have finished the Ironman on my own. It's a lot of miles out there to be doing by yourself. So it was really neat finding that community.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have another question. Is there
Yeah.
a moment from Back on My Feet or the November Project that you lean on when times get hard during training or racing?
Yeah, I think when the very first marathon I did, I was 4 or 5. I think I was 6 or 7 months sober. I had just gotten sober from heroin, and nobody knew my story at November Project because I viewed everybody as like these are normal people, and I'm not normal. Like I don't want to be ostracized because of my past and who I am. So I hadn't told anybody anything at November Project. And so I go out and I do Monumental Marathon and I was so ecstatic. And I finished in 4 hours and 4 seconds, which that sucks. 4 seconds. That one hurt for the first one.
Oh man.
But so I finished that and then we were at a after party and I started telling a friend, Sarah, just kind of a little bit about my story. I just felt comfortable to kind of open up to her. She's like, holy crap. And then I started talking to somebody else. And it was like the first time I felt comfortable sharing my story. And it was really neat. So I ended up writing a blog for November Project shortly after that. And everybody started reaching out, like saying they're happy I'm here. They're so proud of me, this and that. And it was really neat. And I always kind of fall back on that moment. Because that's what community is. I had this fear that everybody was just going to immediately tell me to get the hell out when I said I was a heroin addict. But it was the exact opposite. Like they accepted me with even bigger open arms. And that was so neat to see. And I was so thankful. So I think about that a lot.
Yeah, I think it's great to see like you saying that and then talking about how NIFS kind of um, you know, they like overlooked some of your you know, previous things. Like, I think it's always beautiful. You know, I work in recovery too. It's not endurance sports related, but it's amazing to see how we're breaking like this stigma. I mean, I know we still like a lot of work to do, but it's
Oh
great that
yeah.
we're seeing like we're slowly breaking the stigma. I mean, it's just a little bit at a time, obviously, but it's just so
I,
cool
I
that
think I think people are starting to understand that just because they were on drugs or they did these things doesn't necessarily mean that they're a terrible person. They may have just lost their way. Like me, I completely lost my way. And once you get that deep, it's hard to get out. And most people don't. Most people end up dead or in prison. I was one of the fortunate ones who made it out. And that's why I'm just so fortunate to be able to tell my story.
yeah, I feel like there's a reason like why, you know, why we make it through, you know, and I think this is why. Like, you have a really inspiring story to tell people. So um, yeah, it's just beautiful, man. That's all I have to say about that. And I'm so
Well,
glad that
thank you.
you're
Thank you. Same,
willing to
same on your
share
end.
it
I
here.
appreciate that.
Um, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but something that comes up a lot is like during your sobriety journey, did you have any like setbacks with sobriety? I mean, I'll be transparent. I had several, um, and if you did, like, how did you navigate those like throughout this journey?
Yeah, I would definitely say my biggest setback was the DUI. It was because I had been sober from heroin for a good amount of time, and I've stayed sober from heroin that entire time. But again, I thought I could drink, and quickly found out that I could not. Um, and I got that DUI, and it was just so embarrassing because I'm like, here I am thinking like, oh, I've got my life on track again. I was in the same spot. It was just alcohol instead of heroin, um, and it was really a wake up call to literally crash the car. Have to explain things to Steph. Thank God she stayed with me. It was very humbling, and I think the further that I distanced myself, the easier it got. It's I think like again at the beginning of my story, I used to be so afraid to tell people about it. But now the more that I tell it, the more that it kind of reiterates what I'm doing is for a purpose. Um, so it's really helped to keep me sober and just kind of keep my path in life.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. I agree. Like the way it seems to me is you're owning your story. Like, you know, it doesn't own you. That's kind of how I feel about it. That's how I um, perceive like how you're probably handling that. Is it? Would you agree with that? And
Yeah, yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah, I
I
think
mean,
that's great. Like,
there's certainly some very ugly parts of my story, and they get talked about. I've talked about them before, um, but I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Like nothing about my past, I wouldn't change a thing. It made me into the person that I am today, and I'm a much better person for it. I went through hell to get there, but I saw the darkest part of life. And I also get to see now that other side of life. So I know what's on both sides and I know which side I want.
you probably agree with this statement, but like going through all that darkness, it's like, yeah, it makes you appreciate like every day that you wake up sober. Not that it makes us any more special than people that didn't struggle with addiction, but like each day that I wake up, it's like I know what used to be like on the other end of this. So in a way, it makes me appreciate like every single minute that I'm not that I get to be sober. It truly is a gift. I'm assuming you align with that too, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I have bad days now, but they are nothing in comparison to waking up sick every day and just eating out of dumpster. Nothing compared to what I used to do. So I do my best to kind of live that mindset that if you went through that, you can get through anything. Like just life's not that bad. It's really not.
Yeah, I love that sentiment. You're like, yeah, you had to get through what you went through then to be who you are now. I love that statement. and I can align with that 100%. We have a question here. Is seeing others
Yep.
accomplish their goals through these programs, such as the NIFS and Back on My Feet November Project, was it as satisfying as finishing Ironman Lake Placid?
Yeah. Absolutely. So it's kind of shifted. Like Lake Placid was such a cool experience to cross that finish line and to kind of prove to myself like, hey, I can do it. Was so cool, and to have the film crew there was incredible. But it doesn't compare to what I get from actually leading the participants. And again, it goes back to when I first got sober, I had those people there with me. My buddy paced me for the marathon, and he was one of the volunteers for Back on My Feet. All those people helped me get to where I am now. So that's become my sole focus. Like, I've never been a competitive person. I don't really care to go out and beat whoever, although I did beat Steph in a 1 mile race one day, just in case she's listening. So,
I love
but
this.
so yeah, but it's just one of those things. Like, I'm not that competitive, but I love nothing more than seeing people accomplish things they didn't think they could do. Or if they're having an off night at training and they're thinking about quitting, I'm that person in their ear that gets to basically talk them back into doing what they're doing. And at the end of it, they end up just loving themselves that much more. And yeah, so I can't beat it.
Yeah, that has to be super gratifying to be a part of, to get to witness too.
Absolutely.
Oh, something else we just talked about. You're also a fellow bike and run commuter to work. Um, Tell me how that
Yes.
started for you.
I think it had just like kind of evolved. I was just looking for different ways to get to work. Steph and I, we only still to this day have one car because I work downtown. For the longest time, once I got sober, I didn't have a license. I owed so much money on my license from all my past stuff that it was ridiculous. And I thoroughly enjoyed biking and running to work. Stephanie actually bought me my first bike as a present, and I used to bike 10 miles to get to the running store. And now I work about 4 miles from work, and I absolutely love it. Minus the drivers in Indianapolis, I hate most of them. But other than that, I absolutely love the bike commuting. It's kind of my time to either set my intentions for the day when I'm biking to work, or to kind of decompress coming home from work. And I can squeeze in training while also commuting, while also helping the planet in my own little small way. It's just really nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Mine started out. I'm just obsessed with Harvey Lewis, and I love backyard ultras. And I was just like, well, he ran the 450-mile backyard at Big Dogs this last
Yes.
October, which is
Yes.
like which is insane, right?
That's
He's not like a
nice.
superhero. He's just a school teacher, from Ohio, and that's what kind of got me started. My run commute's about the same distance. Mine's just a little over 3, but it started out just doing it to get some extra training in, and I don't take as much time away from my family and all that stuff. But same thing
Yeah.
now it's just become like a nice. It's like a meditation, right? Like I can kind of clear my head before work, and then kind of like if you have like kind of a rough day, you can kind of clear your head afterwards too. So that's great.
Absolutely.
It's always cool to meet other like fellow run commuters. Like everybody at I don't know. Well, you work in fitness, but at my work, everybody's just like I'm like the weirdo that runs to work instead of drives. But
Oh, I'm still
I've
a
gotten to the
weirdo.
point.
Don't.
Okay, yeah,
I I
yeah,
I bike to work when it's like, there was one time it was like negative 20 out, and I bike to work, like, and I loved it. Like, me being the only person in the city, I loved it. But kind of what you're saying, like, there's a little community of us that commute, and I see the same people every day, and we always give like the head nod or the wave. We all know like, hey, this is our thing, you know.
yeah. That's cool, man. As soon as I put that together, I was like, oh, like I knew there was. every time I was doing like this little bit of a deep dive on, trying to get it. I'm just like, I like this guy more that I dive into this. So I'm so glad that there's more of us out there. So that's so cool.
Absolutely.
And yeah, the cars are no joke. What do you think for biking to work? I've had more near misses biking to work than I had running. So
biking, without
biking,
question,
right?
biking. Yeah.
It feels like you have a target. Like you
2
have
to
a
3
target.
times a week. Yeah, I actually I wear my GoPro every single commute, just to kind of capture if something happens.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, you have to have a header.
Oh, for sure.
So I think you already covered this. You kind of already covered this because you said you're getting. But I want to know because you. I've seen some places we're going to be doing photography and stuff like that coming up soon. And I'm going to try and plan around doing those events so I can have some new pictures this year. But
yeah, for sure.
do you have any upcoming? Do you have any upcoming goals or like races or events or like any other projects that you're working on that you can tell me about?
Really, this year is my main focus right now is getting the film promoted, making sure that people see it. I will make a humble ask that, if people are seeing this, go to Athletic Brewing's Instagram, share the trailer, share the film when it comes out. I just want it to be stretched far and wide to kind of help people, see it. And then after that, I got brought on by Beyond Monumental this year. So I'll be doing all their photography at like Monumental Mile, Monumental Marathon, Indy Half. And then I'll be out at a lot of the Dino races. I'll be doing the 8-hour endurance with Todd Oliver. Cool. So I'll be out at a lot of races shooting, cheering on my wife. She's got all kinds of big races she's running. So I'll go out and spectate. The last few years, it's been all about me and my training. So I'm kind of trying to shift it over to her and just the photography and just kind of have fun with that.
Cool. Yes, I'll be at the 8-hour dream, so I can't wait to get some fresh pictures,
Absolutely.
Man. And it sounds like you both will be crewing. You guys will both be aid station captains at the Momofo 100K too.
Yes.
So I guess I might see you guys there. But
yeah.
Cool. I look forward to it, man.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Look forward to seeing you both. Yeah. So kind of as we wrap up this podcast, I wanted to ask you kind of a big question again. So what key lessons have you learned throughout your journey? Or is there any advice you would want to share with anyone that has gone through the same thing that you have? I know that's a big question, but is there anything you could leave anybody? What would that be?
Yeah. It would be find your why and find your community. Figure out who you are and what you want to do. I know that's hard, but just kind of exploring that. And there's going to be tons of things that you do that it fails and you don't want to do them. But just exploring things until you find your purpose. Like, I feel like I finally found mine. And doing that through community. You cannot do any of this alone. Nobody can. Nobody's an actual loner. People may be introverts, but nobody's a loner. Like, everybody needs somebody. And the more people that are involved in your community, the better off you are. And that it goes both ways though. The community can't be just everybody being all about you. Like, you have to genuinely invest yourselves in these communities, give back your time, give back your energy. And that's really what has kind of kept me on the straight and narrow. So.
That's beautiful, man. After this wraps up, I want to get some information from you too. I'd like to get more involved with some of these organizations you're a part of. I live just down the road, and I'll admit I need to do more to give back. The running community gives me so much, so I'd like to, be a bigger part of it for sure. But I know you shared this before, but go ahead. Sorry, Timmy.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, there's tons of things out there. It's like you said, it's just getting involved with them. These organizations are always looking for more volunteers. Doesn't matter what pace you are. Even if you don't run, you don't bike, anything like that, they can use help with, setting up race stuff or, even like Ainsley's Angels, like helping with the wheelchairs or just carrying a raft down. There's tons of things they need help with. So there's tons of volunteers opportunities for everybody.
Cool, man. And if you want, maybe just tell everybody one more time where you can find your inches to miles information.
Yeah. So the inches to miles, if you go to athleticbrewing.com, that's probably going to be the easiest way. Or just Google Athletic Brewing inches to miles. Everything will pop up right there. If you follow me on Instagram, it's Timmy_hotdog_Howard. I will be posting a lot of stuff as the film comes up too. And we'll be doing a lot of fun things leading off to it. And then after as well. We're working on trying to get some showings in my hometown of Dayton. And I mean, we're working a lot of things to try to get that out there. So the more everybody can share it, the better off the film's going to be. We can't do a film like this without everyone's help. So, I mean, the more exposure we get, the better off we are.
Cool. Man, thank you. It means a lot to me to have you on my first podcast. I know we've only met a couple of times. Well, I guess once at Jackson County, but it's been cool watching your story and all this kind of unfold. And I look forward to getting to know you better. I almost need to have you on again sometime in the future. I feel like I've got like all these questions. This gave me more questions. So I appreciate.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It means a lot to have you here, and I'm fired up to see you guys in June. I'm sure I'll be going through it. It's a night run, so I'll be going through it. It'd be cool to see some friendly faces, and yeah, I can't look forward to see. I can't look forward to seeing more of your work, man. It's just, it's been fantastic.
I appreciate that. And like, I mean, this goes to everybody. If anybody's listening, if you see me out at a race shooting, say hi, talk to me. I'm not scary. I just love making new friends. Like, this is how I met you. It's how I met so many of the people that I'm friends with on Instagram. It's literally how I met my wife, was through running. So it's one of those things, like, just say hi, make a new friend for the day. So if you ever see me out, I'd love to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. I'm glad I came out of my shell to talk to you that day. It's been awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, cool. It's been great getting to know you more. And like I said, I thank you again. This is obviously my first podcast, and you made this really, really easy, and your story is fantastic. Yeah, thanks. But thanks for letting me share your story and your journey, man. You're going to continue to inspire and do great things. I know you are.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. I'm honored to be the first person on here. So thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully, this keeps going. We can have some more. We'll have you back. Of course, I'm going to have to have you back, but
maybe we'll do like the 100th episode as like a first to 100 type thing.
Oh, that sounds like a perfect idea. Yeah.
There you go. Just mark it on the calendar.
Man. And I'd like to say, first of all, to close this, thank you for everybody that wrote in questions. Thanks for hanging with me, being patient with me, and come back the 23rd. I'm doing another podcast with another fantastic guest also. And thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Timmy, and thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. Look